got tired of Vegas. You know what? She wanted to get away from Becky Hammond and Asia Wilson too, probably, dog. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's what it's looking like.
There was a time not long ago when the Las Vegas Aces stood as a symbol of unbridled success and championship pedigree. Their name resonated with excellence, and fans believed they had built a roster capable of conquering any challenge. However, the winds of change can sometimes be swift and brutal. Today, Sport Pulse brings you an in-depth exploration of how the very core of this once unassailable team has crumbled under internal strife. A collapse that began with a single, leaked interview by the team's own MVP, Asia Wilson. Imagine the shock when a team's shining star, renowned not just for her on-court brilliance, but also for her leadership.
Up out of her, Tiffany Hayes was the latest one yesterday. No, I believe somebody else left after her. Now, I think Alyssa Clark might be gone. But make no excuses about it, bruh. These women want to get away from...
Revealed that the Las Vegas Aces were not the championship machine they were presumed to be. Asia Wilson, the league's reigning MVP and a two-time champion, sat down for what everyone assumed would be a routine media session. But as the conversation unfolded, it became immediately clear that something was amiss. At first, the interview was filled with the usual reminiscences of past glories, memories of triumphs, late-game heroics, and the collective pride of a team that had once tasted the sweetness of victory.
So the Las Vegas Aces have lost basically their entire team. Almost their entire team is gone.
What if I told you that the MVP of the Las Vegas Aces, Asia Wilson, isn't just...
Yet as the dialogue deepened, Wilson's tone shifted. Gone was the confident sparkle of a champion. Instead, a heavy sense of disillusionment emerged. In a raw and unfiltered moment, she admitted that the locker room spirit was far from what any championship culture demands. Out of the gate, Wilson confessed, "I knew we weren't built for greatness. We weren't a championship locker room." Her words were more than a personal lament. They were a public declaration that something fundamentally rotten lay at the heart of the organization. Here was the very player who had carried the team on her shoulders, now stating, almost ruefully, that the foundations of the franchise were unstable.
Wilson's leaked interview is sending shockwaves through the league, exposing the rot at the core of the championship team that's imploding right before your very eyes.
They've lost basically everyone. If we want to look...
The shock wasn't solely in what she said, but in the domino effect that immediately followed. A mass exodus of talent that has since rewritten the narrative of the league. Asia Wilson's interview peeled back the veneer of success to reveal the raw truth about the Aces' internal dynamics. In her candid tone, she described a team that had lost its way, a group where tension, clashing egos, and a lack of unified leadership had undermined even the greatest talents. While many fans and analysts had previously celebrated the Aces as an invincible super team, Wilson's revelations painted a very different picture. She recalled early training camps when, despite the glittering roster on paper, it was already evident that the pieces simply did not fit.
Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray. That is it.
It wasn't a championship locker room, Wilson said. But here's what's got everyone talking. It's not just what she said, it's what happened next.
Every practice, every game, we were trying to check every box, but we fell short time and time again, Wilson said. In that moment, she wasn't just expressing disappointment for herself. She was laying bare the systemic issues that had plagued the team. It wasn't enough to win a game. The team needed the intangible magic of chemistry and trust, qualities that, according to Wilson, were in short supply. Her admission wasn't merely a self-reflection, it was a call for accountability. Wilson explained that she was driven by a desire to be not just the best player in the world, but the best teammate possible. "I want to be great for my team, because that's how we bring out the greatness in each other," she explained. In doing so, she implicitly critiqued a locker room culture where individual talents, no matter how brilliant, could not coalesce into true team unity. The fallout from Wilson's candid revelations was swift and brutal.
They have to fill out every other spot. They have a not top 5 roster in the W, and they have to fill out every other spot with minimum contract.
It wasn't a championship locker room, Wilson admits, her voice heavy with...
Almost as if a switch had been flipped, the very players who once basked in the glow of a championship legacy began to reconsider their future in Las Vegas. The once famed locker room that had given the Aces their identity was rapidly dissolving into a disjointed collection of players unable to reconcile their differences or overcome the internal dysfunction. One by one, key figures started to leave. Tiffany Hayes, a cornerstone of the franchise and a player whose talents were evident on every possession, became the latest casualty of this exodus.
I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to be the best. I get y'all saying best player in the world. That's great. It looks great. But I want to be the best person.
Reports emerged that Hayes, along with several other prominent figures, felt that the environment in Las Vegas was no longer conducive to personal growth or team success. Some whispered that it wasn't merely Hayes. Even voices as respected as Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray had expressed doubts about the lack of leadership and direction on and off the court. As more players chose to seek opportunities elsewhere, it became increasingly evident that the roster was thinning out. The once mighty lineup was reduced to a skeleton crew, forced to rely on minimum contracts to fill gaps in a team that was once the envy of the league.
But that's not all. Wilson doesn't stop there. She goes on to spill about tension, egos, and a team that just couldn't click. It's the kind of...
As the roster crumbled, it became painfully clear that the issues plaguing the Aces ran deep. Wilson's interview didn't simply point fingers at individual players, it highlighted a systemic failure. The team, once celebrated as a dream team, was now being likened to a house of cards in a hurricane. In other words, no matter how hard the players tried to string together moments of brilliance, the underlying instability made sustained success nearly impossible. Wilson's reflections were particularly damning when she compared the expectations of a championship locker room to the reality of what was unfolding in Las Vegas.
Of locker room drama that would make reality TV blush. And here's where it gets really juicy. Wilson reveals how she knew they weren't a championship locker room before the season.
I always told myself that every game, every practice was another opportunity to get better, she remarked. But as she candidly admitted, despite her best efforts and those of her remaining teammates, the team simply could not check every box. There was a pervasive sense that even if individual performances were stellar, the collective unity, the intangible magic that binds champions together, was missing. Her words resonated with many in the league, not just as a confession of personal disappointment, but as a diagnosis of a deeper malaise. When a team that once commanded respect on the court begins to lose its identity, the effects are far-reaching. The Aces' decline was not just a matter of poor performance. It was a public unraveling of the ideals that once defined them.
She even talked about how she spoke with fellow stars Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray, that the team needs more leadership on and off the floor next season. Talk about calling out your team.
In the wake of this public reckoning, questions naturally arose about responsibility. Was A'ja Wilson's revelation the spark that ignited this mass exodus, or was it simply the tip of an iceberg that had been forming over time? Behind the scenes, there had been simmering tensions and unresolved conflicts that had long threatened to destabilize the franchise. Wilson's words carried an almost prophetic weight. She recalled discussions with fellow stars, voices of reason like Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray, who had long warned that the team needed a new form of leadership, both on and off the court.
Be great for you guys. No offense, but I want to be great for my team. I want to be great for this franchise. It is hard as shit.
These were not empty platitudes. They were sincere pleas for a transformation that sadly came too late for the Aces. With every player departure, the once cohesive unit was transformed into something unrecognizable, a shadow of its former self. One of the most striking metaphors Wilson used was that of a car crash unfolding in slow motion. "It's like you know it's going to end badly, but you just can't look away," she said. And indeed, as fans and analysts alike witnessed the decline, it became painfully clear that the collapse was not an isolated incident, but a gradual disintegration of a once mighty dynasty. The season's losses, both on the court and in the locker room, were not anomalies but symptoms of a failing system.
It is hard as shit because there's tons of people that want to break you down. Great teams in this league that are going to try to come after you every single night. But when it comes to taking accountability,
Even as Wilson attempted to soften her critique by expressing love for her teammates, the sentiment rang hollow in light of the unfolding drama. Her admission was akin to a eulogy, a farewell not just to the current season, but to the legacy of the Las Vegas Aces as they were once known. With each departing player, the roster diminished further, and the future of the franchise became increasingly uncertain.
no problem in that because I want to be great. I want to be great for my teammates. So yes, it can start in practice. Yes, starts in training camp. Yes, it starts in the...
For fans who had once celebrated the Aces as an unstoppable force, the rapid decline was nothing short of heartbreaking. This was a team that had, for a time, captured the imagination of the entire WNBA. Its roster had been a mosaic of talent, ambition, and hope, a team that seemed poised to dominate the league for years to come. Instead, the very elements that had made it great were now its undoing. Every trade, every exit became a symbol of that loss. The trade of Kelsey Plum, for instance, wasn't just a personnel move. It was a seismic shift that signaled a turning point.
wins and the losses, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue to challenge myself and my teammates every single day. Because when you're talking about greatness, it starts with consistency.
In exchange for Plum's scoring prowess, the Aces received a player whose contributions were questioned by fans and experts alike. It was like exchanging a finely tuned sports car for a clunker that couldn't keep pace. Similarly, the departure of Tiffany Hayes, one of the team's emotional anchors, further underscored the breakdown of a once formidable bond among teammates.
Oh, like if you want to win, why would you ever leave the Aces? Because the Aces aren't that good. Simple as that. The amount of people that are saying, oh, the Aces are like this absolute super team still. Oh, they got...
The fan reaction was swift and merciless. Social media buzzed with disbelief, with supporters expressing sorrow over the rapid disintegration of a franchise they once held in the highest regard. It was a dramatic unfolding of events that left everyone wondering, how could a team with such illustrious credentials fall so far, so fast? While the Las Vegas Aces were busy dismantling what had been built over years of hard work and dedication, a starkly different narrative was beginning to emerge elsewhere in the league.